The first light of dawn had barely broken through the thin curtains when Marie's alarm clock shattered the silence of her small apartment. She reached over and silenced it with a practiced motion, careful not to disturb her sleeping son Theo, who lay curled up in the fold-out bed, just a few feet away. The apartment was so tiny that his bedroom was really just a corner of their living room, sectioned off with a bookshelf and a colorful curtain she had sewn herself. Marie slipped out of bed, wincing as her feet hit the cold floor. The heating in their building was temperamental at best, especially in these early autumn mornings when the chill had begun to settle in, but the landlord insisted it wasn't cold enough yet to turn on the central heat. In the bathroom, she splashed water on her face and studied her reflection. At 32, the lines around her eyes told stories of both laughter and worry. Her honey-brown hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, a few strands of gray already appearing at her temples. People often told her she had a beautiful smile, but these days it took more effort to find reasons to show it. "Mom?" Theo's sleepy voice called out from the other room. "Is it morning already?" "Just for me, kiddo," she answered, poking her head out of the bathroom. "You've got another hour before school. Try to go back to sleep." But Theo, ever the early riser like his mother, was already sitting up, his rumpled hair sticking out in all directions. At 9 years old, he had her same thoughtful brown eyes and a seriousness about him that sometimes made her heart ache. He'd had to grow up too fast. "I'll make breakfast," he offered, already padding to their kitchenette. "Not today, buddy. I've got time." She gently steered him back toward his bed. "You slept late last night working on that science project. Rest a little more." While Theo reluctantly returned to bed, Marie prepared a simple breakfast of oatmeal with the last of their cinnamon and sliced banana. As they ate together at their small table, she reviewed her day's schedule aloud, as much for herself as for him. "Mrs. Chen will pick you up after school for study group, and I'll come get you around 7 after my shift at the hotel ends. There's leftover spaghetti in the blue container for dinner if I'm running late. Will you play piano tonight?" Theo asked, hope evident in his voice. The old upright piano that sat against the only empty wall in their apartment was their most treasured possession. It had belonged to Marie's grandmother, the one luxury she had refused to sell even during their most difficult financial moments. It was wildly out of place in their cramped living space, but it was the heart of their home. "We'll see how tired I am," she said with a smile, though they both knew she would never refuse him. Those evening piano sessions were sacred, a tradition they had maintained through evictions, job losses, and the painful absence of Theo's father, who had walked out when the responsibilities of parenthood proved too burdensome. After dropping Theo at school, Marie headed to her morning job at a local coffee shop. By noon, she had already been on her feet for 6 hours, serving lattes and pastries to business people who spent more on breakfast than she made in a day. Her afternoon job as an administrative assistant at a dental office was less physically demanding, but more mentally exhausting, as she juggled appointment schedules and insurance claims. At 5 o'clock, she changed in the dental office bathroom, switching from her business casual clothes to the crisp uniform of the Westfield Hotel, where she worked evening shifts as a housekeeper. The Westfield was the most luxurious hotel in the city, a place where the ultra-wealthy came to see and be seen. Marie and the other housekeeping staff used separate entrances and elevators, invisible workers keeping the illusion of effortless luxury intact. That evening, as she waited for her supervisor to distribute the room assignments, Marie sat in a quiet corner of the grand lobby, savoring 10 minutes of rest before her shift began. The lobby was an impressive space with soaring ceilings, crystal chandeliers, and marble floors so polished they reflected like mirrors. In one corner stood a magnificent grand piano, gleaming black and untouched most evenings. Except when the hotel hired professional musicians for special events, Marie was so tired she had almost dozed off when a commotion near the main entrance caught her attention. A young girl, perhaps 7 or 8 years old, was in obvious distress. Her face was flushed, tears streaming down her cheeks as she struggled to breathe through what appeared to be a severe panic attack. A woman in a neat gray suit, likely a nanny or caretaker, was attempting to calm her down. But her efforts only seemed to make the situation worse. "Please, Lily, deep breaths," the woman was saying, her voice tense with worry and embarrassment as hotel guests began to stare. "Your father will be down soon. Just try to calm down." The child's distress only intensified. She pulled away from the woman's grasp, backing herself against a wall, her small chest heaving with ragged breaths. Two security guards approached, their presence causing the girl to slide down to the floor, curling into herself as if trying to disappear. Marie recognized the signs immediately. Theo had suffered from anxiety attacks after his father left, and she had learned through painful trial and error how to help him through them. Without conscious thought, she found herself moving toward the piano. No one noticed as she quietly sat down on the bench. Her uniform made her nearly invisible in this setting, just another staff member going about her duties. Marie placed her hands on the keys, feeling the cool, smooth ivory beneath her fingertips. How different this instrument was from her weathered upright at home. Yet the keys arranged in the same familiar pattern that had been her solace since childhood. She began to play softly, a gentle melody that her grandmother had taught her. The first notes seemed to hang in the air, barely audible above the murmurs of concern and the child's sobbing. But slowly, almost imperceptibly, the music began to fill the space. Marie didn't look up, focusing instead on the keys beneath her fingers, letting the music flow naturally as she transitioned into a soothing rendition of Claire de Lune. She played it slower than traditional tempo, each note deliberate and clear in the now quieting lobby. She didn't see the little girl's head lift slightly at the sound, nor did she notice as the child's breathing began to slow in time with the music. She didn't see the way the security guard stepped back or how other hotel guests paused to listen. Marie was lost in the melody, her tired body finding renewed energy in the familiar act of creating music. When she finally transitioned to a simple lullaby, she felt, rather than saw, a presence beside the piano. Glancing up, she found the young girl standing just a few feet away, her face tear-streaked but her breathing now normal. Their eyes met and Marie smiled gently, continuing to play. The girl moved closer, seemingly drawn to the music. Her caretaker followed anxiously behind but made no move to interfere, as the child came to stand right beside the piano, watching Marie's hands with fascination. "Would you like to sit?" Marie asked softly. Scooting over slightly on the bench, the girl hesitated, then nodded, climbing carefully onto the bench beside Marie. Up close, Marie could see how expensive her little dress was, the material finer than anything Theo had ever worn. The child's shoes alone probably cost more than Marie's monthly rent. Marie began to play a song from a popular children's movie, and a tiny smile appeared on the girl's face. "You know this one?" Marie asked, and the girl nodded again. "My mom used to sing it," she whispered so quietly Marie almost didn't hear her. "Would you like to try?" Marie offered, indicating a simple repeating pattern with her right hand while her left continued the accompaniment. The girl placed her small fingers on the keys, mimicking Marie's motion. Together they created music, the child's tentative notes blending with Marie's confident ones. The girl's shoulders relaxed, and for a brief moment, she looked like any ordinary child enjoying a piano lesson rather than the wealthy, troubled little girl who had been in crisis minutes before. Neither of them noticed the tall figure watching from across the lobby, a man in an impeccably tailored suit, his expression unreadable as he observed the unexpected scene unfolding at his hotel's grand piano. His intense gaze moved from his daughter to the housekeeper, whose skilled hands and gentle approach had accomplished what an army of expensive therapists had failed to do. Marie, unaware of his scrutiny, checked her watch and realized with a jolt that she was now late for her shift. Her supervisor would not be pleased. "I have to go to work now," she told the girl gently, "but it was lovely playing with you." As she stood to leave, the girl caught her hand. "Thank you," she said, her voice small but steady. "The scary feeling went away when you played." "Music helps chase away scary feelings," Marie replied with a warm smile. "It always helps me too." She hurried toward the staff elevator, straightening her uniform and preparing her apology for being late. She had no idea that the simple act of kindness, playing the piano for a child in distress, had caught the attention of the one person in the hotel with the power to change her life forever. Marie hurried through the service corridors of the Westfield Hotel, her heart still warm from the connection she'd made with the little girl at the piano, but her mind racing with worry about being late for her shift. As she rounded the corner toward the housekeeping office, she nearly collided with her supervisor, Mrs. Patel. "There you are," Mrs. Patel exclaimed, clipboard in hand. "I've been looking everywhere for you." "I'm so sorry I'm late," Marie began, already reaching for her cleaning cart. "It won't happen again. Late? That's not why I'm looking for you," Mrs. Patel's expression was unreadable. "Mr. Rivera wants to see you in his office immediately." Marie's stomach dropped. Mr. Rivera was the hotel manager, someone housekeeping staff rarely saw unless there was a serious problem. Had a guest complained about her playing the piano? She wasn't supposed to touch it, of course. It was for professional musicians and guests, not for cleaning staff. "Did I do something wrong?" Marie asked, her voice small. Mrs. Patel's stern expression softened slightly. "I don't know the details. Just go now, and I'll cover your rooms if needed." The walk to Mr. Rivera's office on the mezzanine level felt like the longest journey of Marie's life. Each step brought a new worry. She couldn't afford to lose this job. Not with Theo's school fees due next week and the rent increase looming. The hotel paid better than most cleaning positions, and the evening hours fit perfectly with her other jobs. She knocked tentatively on the heavy wooden door. "Come in," called a deep voice. Mr. Rivera sat behind his desk, his usual immaculate suit and carefully groomed appearance making Marie acutely aware of her slightly rumpled uniform and the wisp of hair that had escaped her ponytail. But it wasn't the hotel manager who made her breath catch. It was the man standing by the window. Tall with broad shoulders beneath a suit that even Marie could tell cost more than her yearly salary. He turned to face her. His hair was dark with distinguished touches of gray at the temples, and his face bore the kind of handsome features that seemed carved rather than grown. But it was his eyes that held her attention, intense blue eyes that somehow matched the little girls from the lobby. "Ms. DuPont," Mr. Rivera said. Standing, "This is Mr. Daniel Grant, one of our most valued guests." The name hit Marie like a physical force. Daniel Grant, the tech billionaire whose face occasionally appeared in the newspapers Theo collected for school projects about successful entrepreneurs. The man who had revolutionized green energy storage and owned half a dozen companies. What could he possibly want with her? "Please, sit down," Mr. Grant said, his voice surprisingly gentle compared to his imposing presence. Marie perched on the edge of a chair, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "If this is about the piano in the lobby, I'm truly sorry for overstepping. I just thought, the little girl you helped in the lobby is my daughter Lily," he interrupted softly. Marie's eyes widened. "Oh, I hope she's feeling better now. Thanks to you, she is." He moved to sit in the chair beside her rather than across the desk, turning to face her directly. "What you witnessed was a severe anxiety attack. Lily has suffered from them since her mother died 3 years ago." "I'm so sorry," Marie said, genuinely moved by this unexpected glimpse into the man's personal life. "My son had similar episodes after his father left. Music helped him when nothing else seemed to work." Daniel Grant studied her face with those penetrating eyes.
"That's exactly what I wanted to talk to you about."
"I've had therapists, child psychologists, and specialized counselors working with Lily. None of them have been able to reach her the way you did in 5 minutes at that piano." Marie shifted uncomfortably under his gaze. "I just played what felt right in the moment." "You play beautifully," he said. "Where did you study?" She almost laughed at the assumption. "I didn't, not formally. My grandmother taught me as a child, and I took some music theory classes at community college before." She paused, not wanting to share her whole life story. "Before I had to start working full-time." Mr. Rivera cleared his throat. "Mr. Grant has a proposition for you, Ms. DuPont." The billionaire leaned forward slightly. "I'm in town for the next 3 months overseeing a new project. Lily travels with me because I don't like leaving her behind, but it's been difficult finding stability for her. What I'm proposing is that you work with her, not as a traditional tutor or therapist, but as a music companion." Marie blinked in confusion. "I'm not qualified." "You're exactly qualified," he interrupted, a hint of the commanding businessman showing through his polite exterior. "You connected with my daughter when no one with fancy degrees could. I want to hire you to spend time with Lily, teaching her piano, using music to help her the way you helped your son." Marie's mind was spinning. "But my job here, why, would be put on hold," Mr. Rivera interjected smoothly. "Mr. Grant has already discussed this with hotel management. Your position would remain secure for when this arrangement ends. The compensation would be substantial," Daniel Grant continued. "More than enough to cover the income from all your current jobs combined." Marie's heart skipped a beat. How did he know she worked multiple jobs? As if reading her mind, he added, "I had my assistant do a background check after what happened in the lobby. Standard procedure for anyone who might work closely with my daughter. A background check? In the past few hours, the casual display of power and resources was disorienting. This would be a full-time position, 5 days a week with evenings and weekends free for you to spend with your son, he continued. You'd have access to the piano suite in my penthouse apartment. And I'm prepared to provide transportation to and from your home. Marie's thoughts immediately went to Theo. This kind of income could change everything for them. Better food, new clothes that actually fit him, maybe even moving to an apartment with proper heating and without mold in the bathroom. But it would also mean leaving her other jobs, putting all their security in the hands of this wealthy stranger and his temporary project. Could I have some time to think about it? She asked carefully. Something flashed across Daniel Grant's face, impatience perhaps, or surprise at not receiving an immediate yes. But he quickly smoothed his expression. Of course, but I would need your decision by tomorrow. Lily has already asked when the piano lady will come back, and I'd like to give her a concrete answer. As if on cue, there was a soft knock at the door. When Mr. Rivera called out permission to enter, the door opened to reveal the woman Marie had seen with Lily in the lobby. And beside her, partially hidden behind the woman's legs, was Lily herself. I'm sorry to interrupt, the woman said. But she insisted on finding her father. Lily's eyes lit up when she spotted Marie. Before anyone could stop her, she darted across the room and stood directly in front of Marie's chair. Will you play more music with me? She asked, her voice small but clear, those blue eyes so like her father's, wide with hope. Marie glanced at Daniel Grant, who was watching his daughter with an expression of stunned surprise, as though witnessing something rare and precious. Lily, he said gently, Ms. DuPont might be busy. We need to respect her time. But she makes the scary feelings go away, Lily said with the simple directness of children. She looked back at Marie. When you play piano, it's like a blanket wrapped around me. Marie felt her heart melt. She knew that feeling exactly. It was why she had kept her grandmother's piano through every hardship, why she played for Theo even when she was bone-tired. Music had been her shelter in the storm, too. I would love to play more music with you, Lily, she said softly. Then, looking up at Daniel Grant with newfound resolve, she added, I don't need until tomorrow. I accept your offer. Relief washed over the billionaire's face, softening his features. Thank you, he said. And those two simple words carried a weight of gratitude that told Marie how truly desperate this powerful man had been to help his daughter. As they worked out the details, Marie would begin the following Monday, giving her time to organize her other jobs and prepare Theo for the change. She watched Lily, who had perched herself on the edge of Mr. Rivera's desk, swinging her legs and looking more like a typical child than the frightened girl from the lobby. That weekend, when Marie told Theo about the new job, his eyes grew wide with excitement. You're going to teach a billionaire's daughter piano? Like in a movie? Marie laughed, ruffling his hair. Life isn't a movie, buddy. It's a temporary job that pays well, that's all. But as she said it, she couldn't help wondering what twist the plot might take next. For the first time in years, she felt something she had nearly forgotten. The fluttering wings of possibility. The chance that maybe, just maybe, their story might change for the better. What she didn't know yet was just how deeply her life would become intertwined with the grief-stricken billionaire and his daughter, or how the music that had always been her refuge would soon build bridges between their separate worlds. Monday morning arrived with a mixture of excitement and nerves fluttering in Marie's stomach as she stood in front of her closet, trying to decide what to wear for her first day in her new role, after a weekend spent organizing her life, explaining the situation to her other employers, arranging for Theo's after-school care, and attempting to wrap her head around this sudden change in fortune. The reality of what she was about to do was finally sinking in. Wear the blue sweater, Theo suggested from his perch on her bed, munching on toast as he watched her deliberate. You always look nice in that one. Marie smiled at her son. At 9 years old, he was already developing a keen eye and thoughtful nature that sometimes made her forget he was still a child. The blue sweater it is, she agreed, pulling it from the hanger. It was her best piece of clothing, a soft cashmere blend that had been a splurge at a second-hand store last year. An hour later, she stood in the gleaming lobby of the Westfield Hotel once more, this time as a guest rather than an employee. The same doorman who had barely acknowledged her in her housekeeper's uniform now held the door with a respectful, Good morning, ma'am. Marie was directed to a private elevator that required a key card, which the concierge provided with a deferential nod. As she stepped inside, she caught a glimpse of herself in the mirrored wall and barely recognized the woman staring back. It wasn't just the blue sweater or the fact that she'd taken extra care with her hair that morning. There was something in her eyes, a spark of hope that had been missing for a long time. The elevator opened directly into a foyer that took her breath away. The penthouse suite occupied the entire top floor of the hotel, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of the city she had lived in her whole life, but had never seen from this height. The morning sunlight streamed across polished marble floors and elegant furniture that looked too pristine to have ever been used. "Ms. Dupont," came a voice, and Marie turned to see the woman who had been with Lily in the lobby that first day. Up close, Marie could see she was younger than she'd first appeared, perhaps in her early 30s. "I'm Nancy Williams, Lily's nanny. Mr. Grant asked me to show you around and get you settled before he brings Lily to meet you." Nancy led her through the sprawling suite, pointing out rooms as they passed, a home theater, a gym, offices, guest rooms, until they reached a set of double doors at the end of a hallway. "This is the music room," Nancy said. Pushing the doors open, Marie stepped inside and froze. The room was magnificent, a dedicated space clearly designed for music with perfect acoustics and soft lighting. In the center stood not one but two pianos, a concert grand in gleaming black and a slightly smaller baby grand in warm mahogany. The black one was Mrs. Grant's, Nancy explained softly. "She was a professional pianist before—" Her voice trailed off. "The other one was delivered yesterday. Mr. Grant thought it would be good to have two pianos so you and Lily could play together." Marie moved slowly toward the mahogany piano, running her fingers lightly over its surface. The wood was warm beneath her touch, the craftsmanship exquisite. She had never played on an instrument like this in her life. "Go ahead," came a deep voice from the doorway. "Try it out." Marie turned to find Daniel Grant watching her, his tall frame filling the doorway. Today he was dressed more casually than when she'd last seen him, in dark jeans and a simple button-down shirt, though she suspected even his casual clothes cost more than her entire wardrobe. "Where's Lily?" Marie asked, suddenly nervous about being alone with him. Still having breakfast. She was up half the night with excitement about starting music lessons today. A smile briefly softened his serious face. "She's never shown this much enthusiasm for any of the therapies or activities we've tried." Marie nodded, understanding the weight of expectation in his words. She sat down at the piano bench, adjusting her posture out of habit, and placed her hands on the keys. The first notes she played were tentative, testing the instrument's touch and tone. It responded with such sensitivity that it almost took her breath away. She transitioned into a piece she knew by heart, a Chopin nocturne that had been her grandmother's favorite. As she played, she forgot where she was, forgot about the billionaire watching her, forgot about everything except the music flowing from her fingers. When she finally finished and looked up, she was startled to find Daniel Grant standing much closer, his expression unguarded for the first time since she'd met him. "That was beautiful," he said quietly. "You play like someone who has studied for years." Marie felt her cheeks warm at the compliment. "My grandmother taught me everything she knew, and she was classically trained. I practice whenever I can, though our old upright at home doesn't sound anything like this." A small sound from the doorway drew their attention. Lily stood there in a simple dress, her hair pulled back with a headband, watching them with those big blue eyes. "Lily," Daniel said, his voice instantly gentler. "Come meet Ms. Dupont properly. She's going to be your music teacher from now on." Lily approached cautiously, up close and not in the midst of a panic attack. Marie could see the delicate features of her face, the slight sprinkle of freckles across her nose, and the way she twisted her fingers together when nervous, exactly the same way Theo did. "You can call me Marie," she offered with a warm smile. "Are you really going to teach me to play like you?" Lily asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Marie patted the space beside her on the bench. "I'll teach you everything I know. Would you like to start now?" Lily nodded eagerly, climbing onto the bench. Daniel watched them for a moment longer, then quietly excused himself, mentioning work calls he needed to make. As he left, Marie caught a glimpse of something in his eyes. Relief, perhaps, or hope. The morning passed quickly as Marie gently introduced Lily to the basics of piano. The girl was a quick learner, her small fingers already finding their place on the keys with surprising dexterity. More importantly, she seemed to blossom under Marie's attention, gradually becoming more talkative as they worked together. "My mom used to play for me," Lily confided during a break, her fingers tracing the wood grain of the piano. "When I couldn't sleep or when I was scared. Is that why you liked the piano so much?" Marie asked gently. Lily nodded. "When you played in the hotel, it sounded like her. Not the same songs, but the same feeling." She struggled to find the word. "Music carries emotions," Marie explained. "Sometimes we can feel close to people we miss when we hear music that reminds us of them." "Do you miss people too?" Lily asked with the direct curiosity of childhood. Marie thought about her grandmother, gone now for 5 years. About Theo's father, though the pain of his abandonment had dulled with time. "Yes," she answered honestly. "But playing music helps me feel better when I'm sad about the people I miss." After lunch, which was delivered by hotel staff to a sunny breakfast nook, Marie and Lily returned to the music room. As the afternoon progressed, Marie was surprised by how quickly she was forming a connection with this quiet, thoughtful child who had experienced such loss at a young age. When Daniel returned to check on them, he found them sitting side by side at the mahogany piano, Lily concentrating fiercely as she worked through a simple melody, while Marie gently guided her hands. "Daddy!" Lily exclaimed when she noticed him, with more animation than Marie had yet seen from her. "Listen to what I learned." She played the short piece, making a few mistakes but pushing through to the end with determination. When she finished, she looked up at her father with such hope and pride that Marie felt her own heart swell. Daniel's face transformed with a genuine smile. "That was wonderful, Lilybug," he said, using what was clearly a family nickname. He came to sit on her other side, the three of them now crowded on the bench. "Your mother would have been so proud." Something shifted in the atmosphere of the room at the mention of Lily's mother. Marie felt like an intruder on a private moment and began to stand, but Daniel's hand lightly touched her arm. "Please stay," he said quietly. "She's more comfortable with you here." As the afternoon turned to evening, Marie realized she had spent the entire day in the penthouse without once checking the time or worrying about rushing to another job. The freedom was dizzying. When it was time to leave, Daniel walked her to the elevator himself. "Thank you," he said simply. "Today was significant." "She's a wonderful child," Marie replied. "Smart and sensitive." "She's been withdrawn since her mother died," he said, his voice low. "What you saw today, the enthusiasm, the smiles, I haven't seen those in a very long time." Marie nodded, understanding the magnitude of what he was sharing. Music can heal in ways nothing else can sometimes. As the elevator doors opened, Daniel added, "My driver will take you home. He'll also pick you up tomorrow morning." The black luxury car that waited for her downstairs made Marie feel self-conscious as it pulled up to her rundown apartment building. The contrast between these two worlds she was now straddling couldn't have been more stark. Theo was full of questions when she arrived home, about the penthouse, about Lily, about the fancy car. Marie answered as best she could, trying to emphasize that this was a temporary job, not a permanent change in their circumstances. But as she tucked him into bed later that night, she couldn't help wondering if this unexpected opportunity might lead to something that could transform both their lives in ways she had never dared to imagine. What she didn't yet realize was that she had already begun to transform the lives of the grieving father and daughter as well, bringing music and warmth back into a home that had been silent for too long. The weeks flew by as Marie settled into her new routine. Each morning, the sleek black car would arrive at her apartment building, turning heads among her neighbors. Each evening it would return her home, where Theo waited eagerly to hear stories about her day with the piano girl and her dad. What had begun as simply piano lessons had gradually expanded into something more meaningful. Lily, who had once been so withdrawn and anxious, was slowly emerging from her shell. Her panic attacks had decreased significantly, and on the rare occasions when one began, Marie had learned how to use music to guide her through it. One rainy Tuesday afternoon, nearly a month into their arrangement, Marie arrived at the penthouse to find Lily waiting by the elevator doors, practically bouncing with excitement. "Dad said I can show you something special today," she announced, grabbing Marie's hand and pulling her down the hallway past the music room. Marie allowed herself to be led to a door she hadn't noticed before, tucked away in a corner of the massive penthouse. Lily pushed it open to reveal a cozy room painted in soft yellows and greens, with bookshelves lining one wall and a window seat overlooking the city. "This was my mom's reading room," Lily explained, her voice dropping to a reverent whisper. "Dad keeps it just like it was, but he said I could bring you here." Marie felt the weight of this privilege. In the past month, she had learned that Catherine Grant had been not only a concert pianist, but also a passionate advocate for music education in underprivileged communities. Her death in a car accident 3 years ago had left both husband and daughter adrift in their grief. "It's beautiful," Marie said softly, taking in the personal touches that made the room feel so different from the elegant but impersonal decor of the rest of the penthouse. There were photographs on the walls, Catherine with a younger Lily at the piano, the three of them on a beach, Catherine in a concert gown on stage. "Mom kept all her favorite books in here," Lily continued, pointing to the shelves. "And look." She climbed onto the window seat and reached behind a cushion, pulling out a worn notebook. This was her idea journal. "Dad doesn't know I found it," Marie hesitated. "If it's private, maybe we shouldn't." "She wrote about music all the time," Lily insisted, opening the journal. "Look here. She was planning a music program for kids who couldn't afford lessons." Marie sat beside Lily on the window seat and looked at the pages the girl was showing her. Catherine's handwriting was elegant but energetic, filling the margins with sketches and exclamation points. The passion behind the words leapt off the page. "She wanted to start a foundation," Lily explained, "for kids like you used to be." Marie looked up in surprise. "What do you mean?" Lily's expression turned sheepish. "I heard Dad talking on the phone about you. He said you were really talented but never got the chance to study music properly because your family didn't have money. That's the kind of kids Mom wanted to help." A lump formed in Marie's throat. The idea that Daniel Grant had been discussing her background was unsettling, but the thought that she might have been exactly the sort of person Catherine Grant had wanted to help was overwhelming. "Your mom sounds like she was an amazing person," Marie said finally. Lily nodded, closing the journal carefully. "Dad says I'm like her, but he gets sad when he says it." Before Marie could respond, they heard footsteps in the hallway. Daniel appeared in the doorway, his expression unreadable as he took in the scene. "Lily showed me your wife's reading room," Marie explained, suddenly feeling like an intruder. "It's lovely." Daniel's face softened slightly. "Catherine would have liked you," he said after a moment. "She believed music could change lives." "It changed mine," Marie admitted. "It was the one beautiful thing I could always count on, even when times were hard." Something passed between them then. An understanding, perhaps, or a recognition. Before either could speak again, Lily bounced up from the window seat. "Can Marie come to my school concert next week?" she asked her father. "I want her to be there when I play." Daniel looked momentarily startled. "You want to perform in the concert? But you've always refused before." "I'm not scared if Marie helps me practice," Lily declared with the confidence of a child who has overcome a fear. "Please, Dad?" Daniel's eyes met Marie's over his daughter's head. "Of course, if Marie is available." "I wouldn't miss it," Marie promised. That evening, when the driver took her home, Marie found herself lost in thought. She had crossed some invisible boundary today, from employee to something more personal. The significance of being invited into Catherine's private space wasn't lost on her. When she arrived home, she was surprised to find Theo sitting with Mrs. Chen, their elderly neighbor, both looking worried. "What's wrong?" Marie asked immediately. "The landlord came by," Mrs. Chen explained. "He said there's going to be a big rent increase next month. Everyone in the building got notices." She handed Marie an envelope. Marie's hands trembled as she read the notice. The new rent would be nearly double what they currently paid, far beyond what she could afford, even with her generous salary from Daniel Grant. The building had been purchased by a development company that planned to renovate and upscale all the units. "We have 60 days to decide," Marie told Theo after Mrs. Chen left. "We can start looking for a new place this weekend." Theo nodded bravely, but Marie could see the worry in his eyes. This apartment was the only home he'd ever known. "It'll be an adventure," she assured him, trying to sound confident, "and we can afford something nicer now anyway." Later, after Theo was asleep, Marie sat at their old upright piano, her fingers moving silently over the keys without pressing them. The contrast between this worn instrument and the magnificent pianos in Daniel Grant's penthouse struck her anew. Her world and his were so different, and yet, through music and through Lily, they had found common ground. The next morning, as Marie worked with Lily on the piece she would play at her school concert, she tried to push aside her worries about the apartment, but Daniel, entering the music room to listen to his daughter practice, immediately noticed something was wrong. "Is everything all right?" he asked when Lily took a bathroom break. Marie hesitated, then decided there was no harm in being honest. "My apartment building was sold. The new owners are doubling the rent, so we'll have to move." Daniel frowned. "That's unfortunate timing. Is there anything I can do to help?" "No, but thank you," Marie said quickly. "We'll be fine. I've been saving most of what you've been paying me." He seemed about to say something else when Lily returned and the moment passed, but Marie caught him watching her thoughtfully throughout the rest of the morning. 3 days later, Marie arrived at the penthouse to find both Daniel and Lily waiting for her by the elevator. "We have a surprise," Lily announced, practically vibrating with excitement. "A proposition." "Actually," Daniel corrected, though he was smiling at his daughter's enthusiasm. "Would you come with us? There's something I'd like to show you." Curious and a little apprehensive, Marie followed them down to the waiting car. The driver took them to a residential neighborhood not far from Theo's school, a pleasant area of brownstones and small apartment buildings with trees lining the sidewalks. "What are we doing here?" Marie asked as they pulled up in front of a well-maintained building. "Looking at an apartment," Daniel answered simply. "The company that owns this building is one of my subsidiaries. There's a 2-bedroom unit available on the 2nd floor. Marie stared at him. "I can't accept a place to live from you. That's too much." "It's not a gift," he clarified quickly. "It's still a rental, but at a fair market rate, not the inflated prices that development company is charging. And it would be convenient. Close to Theo's school and a short drive to the hotel." Marie hesitated, torn between pride and practicality. "I need to think about it, and Theo would need to see it too." "Of course," Daniel agreed. "The unit will be available to view whenever you're ready. No pressure." But there was something in the way he said it that made Marie wonder if there was more to the offer than simple practicality. The school concert arrived the following week. Marie sat with Daniel in the auditorium of Lily's private school, surrounded by other parents dressed in expensive clothes. She felt out of place despite wearing her best outfit, but her discomfort faded when Lily walked onto the stage and took her place at the piano. The girl looked tiny behind the large instrument, her feet barely reaching the pedals. But when she began to play, the simple piece they had practiced together came to life with a confidence that brought tears to Marie's eyes. Daniel, sitting beside her, reached over and briefly squeezed her hand. "Thank you," he whispered. "This is because of you." The moment was interrupted by the buzz of his phone. He glanced at it and frowned. "I need to take this emergency at work. Will you stay with Lily? I'll try to be back before the end." Marie nodded and he slipped out of the row. But as the concert continued and other children performed, there was no sign of him returning. When the event ended, Marie found Lily waiting backstage, scanning the crowd of parents for her father. "He had to take an emergency call," Marie explained gently. "He said he'd try to get back, but it looks like he couldn't make it." Disappointment clouded Lily's face. "He always has emergencies." The familiar sadness in the girl's voice struck a chord with Marie. How many times had Theo waited for his father, only to be disappointed? The similarity between these two children from such different worlds suddenly seemed stark. "He saw you play," Marie assured her, "and he was so proud. Let's call him while we wait for the driver." But Daniel didn't answer his phone, and the driver, when he arrived, explained that Mr. Grant had been called to an urgent meeting across town. Marie found herself comforting Lily on the ride back to the penthouse, promising ice cream and a movie night to celebrate her successful performance. As she tucked Lily into bed later that evening, still with no word from Daniel, Marie wondered about the complexities of wealth and privilege. All the money in the world, it seemed, couldn't protect a child from feeling abandoned. Marie was at the kitchen table helping Theo with his math homework when her phone rang. Daniel's name flashed on the screen, unusual for this time of evening. It had been nearly 2 months since she'd begun working with Lily, and their routine was well established by now. I need to ask a favor, Daniel said without preamble when she answered. His voice sounded strained. I'm stuck at the office with a crisis and Nancy has a family emergency. Could you possibly stay with Lily overnight? I know it's a lot to ask, but what about Theo? Marie interrupted. I can't leave him alone. There was a pause. Bring him along, Daniel suggested. The penthouse has plenty of room and Lily's been asking to meet him anyway. Marie considered the idea. Theo had been curious about the girl she worked with every day, and they were roughly the same age. Let me ask him, she said, covering the phone. Theo, how would you feel about a sleepover at Lily's place tonight? His eyes widened. The penthouse? With the view of the whole city? That's the one, Marie smiled, already knowing his answer. An hour later, Marie and Theo stood in the elevator heading up to the penthouse, a hastily packed overnight bag in hand. Theo was practically bouncing with excitement. Remember, Marie cautioned, Lily is a bit shy at first and she sometimes gets anxious. Just be your kind self, okay? Theo nodded solemnly, like when Jake from my class has his breathing problems. I know how to be quiet and calm. Marie's heart swelled with pride at her son's empathy. Exactly like that. Lily was waiting when the elevator doors opened, her face a mixture of curiosity and nervousness. The two children studied each other for a long moment. I'm Theo, her son finally said, extending his hand formally like he'd seen adults do. My mom says you play piano too. Lily's face brightened. Want to see the music room? We have 2 pianos. Just like that, the ice was broken. The children raced down the hallway, leaving Marie to follow behind, marveling at how quickly they had connected. By bedtime, after pizza ordered from the hotel kitchen and an impromptu piano duet that had both children giggling, Marie felt as though they'd crossed yet another invisible boundary. Watching Theo adapt so easily to this luxurious environment, not intimidated, just appreciative, made her wonder how adaptable children really were. Perhaps the differences that seemed so stark to adults meant little to them. Marie tucked Lily into bed while Theo settled on a pull-out sofa in a guest room nearby. Will you play something? Lily asked, a request that had become part of their routine. For both of us? Of course, Marie agreed, moving to the small digital keyboard that had been placed in Lily's room specifically for bedtime music. She played a gentle lullaby, and by the time she finished, both children were drifting off to sleep. She was sitting in the living room reading when she heard the elevator doors open shortly after midnight. Daniel stepped out looking exhausted. His tie was loose, his usually perfect hair slightly mussed. Thank you for staying, he said, sinking onto the couch opposite her. The deal nearly fell apart and I couldn't leave. It's fine, Marie assured him. The kids had fun together. Theo's asleep in the guest room. Daniel rubbed his eyes. Can I get you something? A drink? Some tea would be nice, she admitted. To her surprise, Daniel made it himself rather than calling hotel service. As they sat with their steaming mugs, a comfortable silence fell between them. It struck Marie how natural it felt to be here in his home, late at night sharing this quiet moment. Lily told me about the school concert, he said finally, about my missing most of it. Marie nodded but didn't comment. It happens too often, he continued, staring into his tea. I tell myself I'm building all this for her future, but I'm missing her present. It's a difficult balance, Marie acknowledged. When Theo was younger, I was working so many hours that I missed things too. We do what we have to do. The difference is I don't have to, Daniel said, his voice low with self-reproach. I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. I could delegate more, but I don't. After Catherine died, work became my escape. It was easier than facing an empty home. Marie understood escape mechanisms all too well. Music was mine, she admitted. When things got really tough, I would sit at our old piano and play until my fingers ached. It couldn't solve our problems, but it helped me face them. Daniel looked up, meeting her eyes. You've changed things here, you know. Lily's different since you came. Better. She just needed someone to listen, not just to her words, but to her feelings, Marie said. Music gave us a way to do that. It's not just what you've done for Lily, Daniel said, setting down his mug. You've reminded me of things Catherine used to say about what really matters, about balance. Marie felt a flutter of nervousness at the intensity in his gaze. I should check on the children, she said, standing abruptly. Daniel nodded, the moment broken. Of course. Good night, Marie. The next morning over breakfast, while the children chattered about a movie they wanted to watch, Daniel cleared his throat. I've been thinking, he began. The 3 months we initially discussed are almost up. Marie's heart sank. She had tried not to think about the end date of their arrangement, about returning to her previous jobs and leaving Lily just as the girl was making such progress. I'd like to propose something more permanent, he continued. Not just continuing the music lessons, but something larger. He slid a folder across the table. Inside was a business plan for the Catherine Grant Foundation for Music Education. A detailed proposal for a non-profit that would provide music lessons, instruments, and mentorship to children who couldn't afford them. Catherine's dream, Marie whispered, remembering the journal Lily had shown her. Yes, Daniel nodded. A dream I should have helped her realize when she was alive. I'd like to do it now, and I'd like you to run it. Marie stared at him. Me? But I don't have any experience with... You have exactly the experience needed, Daniel interrupted. You understand what music can mean to a child with limited resources because you lived it. You're a gifted teacher, as Lily has proven. The business side of things, well, that's what I can help with. Marie flipped through the documents, her mind racing. A real job, a career doing something meaningful, something that combined her love of music with her desire to help others. There's more, Daniel added, his voice softer. The foundation would need a home base. I've purchased a building downtown that has room for offices, teaching studios, and... He hesitated. An apartment on the top floor. For the director. For you and Theo, if you want it. Marie's head snapped up. Daniel, I can't accept it. It's not charity, he said firmly. It's a job offer, with appropriate compensation and housing as part of the package. The apartment would be Theo's home too, with space for him to grow and thrive. And, he added with a glance toward the children, it would mean Lily and I would see you both regularly as the foundation gets established. Marie studied his face, trying to read what lay beneath the business proposition. Is that what you want? To keep seeing us? Daniel's professional demeanor faltered slightly. These past months, having you and now Theo in our lives, it's changed things. Changed me. When Catherine died, I thought that part of my life was over. I never expected to find someone who could understand both my world and hers. Our worlds are very different, Marie pointed out. Less different than you might think, Daniel countered. We both know what it means to struggle, just in different ways. We both love our children more than anything. We both understand the power of music to heal. Before Marie could respond, Lily and Theo appeared at her side. Mom, can Lily come see our apartment sometime? Theo asked. I told her about my keyboard and my space posters. And can Theo come back here again? Lily added eagerly. Dad, can we have sleepovers sometimes? The children's hopeful faces, so innocent of the complexities the adults were navigating, made something shift in Marie's heart. Perhaps the walls between their worlds weren't as impenetrable as she had thought. I think, she said carefully, looking from the children to Daniel, that we might be seeing a lot more of each other in the future. Does that mean you'll accept the foundation job? Daniel asked, hope evident in his voice. Marie took a deep breath. It means I'll consider it properly. It's a big change for Theo and me. Take all the time you need, Daniel said, though his smile suggested he already knew what her answer would be. Later that afternoon, as the four of them walked through Central Park together, the children running ahead while Marie and Daniel followed at a more leisurely pace. Marie found herself thinking about the strange twist of fate that had brought them all together. One moment of crisis, one impromptu piano melody, and the trajectory of all their lives had changed. Penny, for your thoughts? Daniel asked, his hand occasionally brushing against hers as they walked. I was thinking about that day in the hotel lobby, Marie admitted. How different everything might be if I hadn't decided to play the piano that evening. I don't believe it was just chance, Daniel said. Catherine used to talk about moments of grace when exactly what we need comes into our lives at exactly the right time. Ahead of them, Theo was showing Lily how to skim stones across a pond, both children laughing when their attempts fell short, the autumn sun caught in their hair, turning it to gold. Just beyond them, a street musician played a violin, the sweet notes floating on the air. A moment of grace, Marie repeated softly, letting her hand finally take Daniel's. I like that. As they continued their walk, Marie knew there would be challenges ahead. Transitions weren't always smooth, and blending lives took time and patience. But watching their children together, seeing how naturally they had formed a connection despite their different backgrounds, gave her hope that perhaps this unexpected harmony would endure. What had begun with a simple melody played to quiet a child in crisis had become something far richer and more complex, a new composition they were all writing together, note by note, day by day.